The evening had already stretched longer than he expected. He sat at the edge of his couch, rubbing his eyes, trying to shake off the tiredness that felt glued to him these days. Work had been heavy for weeks, and balancing it with raising his little boy alone made every day feel like a marathon. Still, he tried to keep himself grounded by reminding himself of one thing. He was doing this for his kid. He checked the time on his phone. It was late, much later than he planned. He had promised himself he would send a quick message to the babysitter before he forgot again. She had stayed extra hours that evening because he had been stuck in traffic after a last-minute meeting. She never complained, never made him feel like he was a burden, and that meant more to him than she probably knew. He opened his messages and began typing. His fingers moved slowly, fighting sleep. He wanted her to know he appreciated her patience, especially on days when everything in his life felt like it was falling apart. He typed a simple message, something gentle and honest, because she deserved at least that much. Thank you for everything today. You're amazing. His thumb hit the send button before he even looked closely at the screen. He leaned back and sighed, letting the exhaustion win for a moment. The house was quiet, his son already asleep, his work bag tossed carelessly near the door. For once he let himself relax, but then something nudged him to check his phone again. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the tiredness playing tricks. When he lifted the screen, the glow of it stung his eyes, and it took him a second to focus. At first, he didn't even understand what he was looking at. His brain refused to process it. Then the realization hit him so sharply that he felt his stomach twist. The message wasn't sent to the babysitter. It was sent to his boss. He stared at his phone, frozen. The name at the top of the chat thread was unmistakable. His boss, who rarely sent more than 2-word replies. His boss, who insisted on strict professionalism. His boss, who never joked, never smiled for no reason, and never entertained anything outside of work. He felt the blood rush to his face. His heart thudded loudly in his chest, almost painfully. He blinked, hoping he was hallucinating. But the message sat there in plain sight, delivered. And then before he could even think of deleting it or pretending his phone had been hacked, it showed one more word. Seen. He groaned and dropped his head into his hands. How could he make such a stupid mistake? How could he not check the contact before sending something like that? Of all people, it had to go to the one person in his life who would absolutely not understand it. He tried to imagine what his boss must be thinking. Maybe she thought he was being sarcastic. Maybe she thought he was crossing a line. Maybe she thought he was trying to win favor in some strange way. All of the possibilities made him want to sink into the floor. He paced the living room, running both hands through his hair. The anxiety building inside him felt too big for his small apartment. He replayed the moment in his mind over and over, wishing he could go back a few minutes and stop himself from pressing send. If he hadn't been so tired, if he had taken even 1 second to look, this wouldn't have happened. He picked up his phone again, thinking maybe he should send a quick explanation, something that would clear the air before morning. But every draft he typed sounded silly or even more suspicious. He deleted one message after another. Sorry, wrong person. It's too short. To Blunt, that message wasn't for you. Too awkward. I meant that for my babysitter. That sounded even worse. He sat back down, gripping the phone tightly. Maybe the best thing to do was say nothing. Maybe pretending it didn't happen was the safest option. His boss wasn't the type to entertain small talk anyway. She might ignore it completely. Maybe if he was lucky, she'd pretend she'd never saw it. But the chances of that felt small. She was strict, but not careless. If she saw the message, she definitely had thoughts about it. He placed the phone face down on the couch and exhaled slowly. His mind was racing in circles, and none of the possible outcomes were good. The fear of embarrassment clung to him like a heavy coat he couldn't take off. He went to check on his son, partly to calm himself and partly to escape his own thoughts. The small bedroom was dim, lit only by the soft nightlight on the wall. His boy slept peacefully, cuddled against his blanket. Unaware of the chaos happening in his father's mind, he stood there for a moment, taking in the sight. It reminded him why he worked so hard, why he pushed himself even when he was exhausted, why he had reached the point of sending messages without thinking. Everything he did was wrapped around the hope of giving his son a better life. He whispered softly, not wanting to wake him, "I hope tomorrow is better than today." As he walked back to the living room, he tried to convince himself that maybe things wouldn't be as bad as he imagined. Maybe his boss would laugh privately and forget it by morning. Maybe she was already asleep and wouldn't reply until she had time to think rationally. But when he reached the couch, he saw a notification on his phone. His heart dropped again. It was a message. From his boss, he hesitated before unlocking the screen. His fingers hovered for a moment, as if touching the phone would trigger something irreversible. Finally, he swiped to open it. Her reply was short. Very short. "We need to talk tomorrow morning. Come to my office at 9, that was it. No explanation. No tone to read. No clue whether she was angry, confused, or simply curious. The lack of emotion made it even worse. He sank onto the couch again, staring blankly at the wall. All the exhaustion he felt earlier was gone, replaced by nervous energy. Sleep was impossible now. He already knew that. His mind wouldn't rest, not with so many questions swirling inside it. He spent the next hour replaying every memory he had of his boss, trying to guess how she would handle something so strange and unexpected. She wasn't unkind, but she was distant. She kept personal matters out of the office. She expected everyone else to do the same. Something like this could easily be seen as unprofessional. He imagined walking into her office the next morning, trying to explain himself. He pictured himself stuttering, sweating, fumbling over his words. The idea alone made his chest tighten. He stood up again and walked to the kitchen for a glass of water, hoping it would calm him. But even as he drank, the nervousness stayed. He knew he wouldn't be able to change what had already happened. All he could do was face tomorrow and hope his explanation made sense. By the time he finally lay down in bed, the sky outside was already turning a darker shade. He stared at the ceiling, unable to shut his eyes. The room felt too quiet, his mind too loud. One small mistake. One wrong tap on a phone. And suddenly tomorrow felt like a storm waiting for him. He turned on his side and sighed. "Please let it not be as bad as I think," he whispered to himself. But deep down, he knew the morning meeting would change, something he just didn't know what yet. The next morning arrived far too quickly. He had barely slept, and when his alarm rang, it felt like it cut through the little rest he managed to get. He forced himself out of bed with a heavy feeling in his chest. His mind was already racing, replaying the accidental message again and again, as if that could undo it. He wished it could. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. His son was still asleep, which gave him a few moments to gather himself. He washed his face with cold water, hoping it would help him wake up and calm down. But the nervousness stayed with him like a shadow. While he prepared breakfast for his son, he kept glancing at his phone. There were no new messages from his boss, which didn't comfort him at all. It only made the meeting feel more serious. She was not someone who called private meetings often, especially not early in the morning. Whatever she wanted to say was going to be direct. He helped his son eat, dressed him, and walked him to the babysitter's home. He tried to act normal, but even she noticed something was off. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. He forced a small smile. "Just work stuff." She nodded, not pushing further, and he thanked her before leaving. This time, he made sure he sent the message to the right person. On the way to work, every red light felt longer than usual. The traffic seemed louder. His thoughts were louder too. By the time he reached the office parking lot, his heartbeat felt faster than it should. He sat in his car for a few seconds after turning off the engine, gripping the steering wheel. He reminded himself that he hadn't done anything wrong on purpose. It was a mistake. A silly one, yes, but still just a mistake. Maybe she would understand. Maybe she would laugh a little. Maybe she wouldn't be cold about it. But he knew better than to expect that. He took a deep breath, stepped out, and walked into the building. The lobby smelled like coffee, and he could hear the distant chatter of early employees settling in. He greeted a couple of coworkers who passed by, but he kept walking quickly, not wanting anyone to slow him down with small talk. The elevator ride felt long, even though it was only a few floors. When the doors opened on his floor, he stepped out and headed straight to his desk. A few coworkers were already there. One of them smiled at him. "You look tired," she joked. He tried to smile back. "Long night." She shrugged sympathetically and returned to her work. He sat down, pretending to check emails, though his eyes weren't focusing. He kept looking at the time on his computer screen, waiting for it to hit 9. Every minute felt like 2. Finally, when the clock changed to 8:56, he stood up. His legs felt heavier than normal. He tried to steady his breathing before walking toward his boss's office. Her door was open slightly, as it usually was in the mornings. He knocked softly. "Come in," she said, her voice firm but not sharp. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. She was sitting at her desk, looking professional and calm as always. Her expression didn't give anything away. She gestured to the chair across from her. "Have a seat," he did, trying not to fidget. His hands rested on his lap, but they felt restless. She folded her hands and looked at him steadily. "I received your message last night," he swallowed. "Yes, I'm really sorry about that. It was meant for someone else. I sent it without checking the contact. I didn't mean to bother you with it." There was a long pause. She didn't look angry, but she wasn't smiling either. "I see," she said quietly. "It caught me by surprise." He nodded quickly. "I understand." "I wanted to ask if everything is okay," she continued. "Your message sounded emotional." Wasn't expecting that. Her voice wasn't irritated. It was curious, maybe even concerned. That made him more nervous because he didn't know how to respond without oversharing. "Everything's fine," he said, trying to sound normal. "I was just thanking my babysitter. She helped me with extra hours yesterday. I was tired and typed too fast." She nodded slowly, absorbing his explanation. "I understand. Being a single parent must be difficult. Balancing work with everything else." Her words startled him a little. It was rare for her to bring up personal matters. "It's challenging sometimes," he admitted softly. She leaned back in her chair. "You've always been responsible with your work. But I've noticed you seem more tired lately." I wasn't sure how to address it. He felt a small wave of embarrassment, worried she thought he was slacking. "I'm doing my best. I don't want my personal life to affect my job." "I know," she said. "I'm not criticizing. I'm trying to understand. Yesterday was a long day for everyone, but you seemed especially overwhelmed." He lowered his eyes for a moment. Hearing her say that made him feel exposed. Like she could see through the walls he tried so hard to keep up. She continued after a short pause. "Your message, although clearly not meant for me, made me think about something." He looked up surprised. "About what?" She held his gaze. "Sometimes I forget that the people working under me are dealing with real lives outside this office. Responsibilities, families, challenges. I tend to focus too much on results and deadlines. Maybe I haven't been as understanding as I should be." Blinked, stunned. He didn't know what to say, because he wasn't expecting anything like this. She sighed lightly. "It made me reflect. Not in a negative way, just made me pause." He felt a tiny sense of relief, letting out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "I'm glad you're not upset." "Not upset," she said. "But I do want to make sure you're managing everything. If you need support or flexibility, I'd rather know than wait until something goes wrong." He nodded slowly. "I appreciate that, truly." Another quiet moment passed between them. He didn't feel scared anymore, just unsure of how this conversation had taken such an unexpected turn. The boss he knew wasn't cold, but she was distant. This version of her, more thoughtful, more open, was unfamiliar. "Thank you for explaining," she said calmly. "And next time, just double-check before sending a message." He managed a small laugh. "I definitely will." She gave a faint smile, not a big one, but enough to show she wasn't bothered. "You may go," she said gently. He stood up, feeling lighter than when he walked in. As he reached the door, she added, "And if you ever feel overwhelmed, come talk to me first, all right?" He turned slightly, nodded, and walked out. The hallway felt different as he stepped into it. Not brighter, but less intimidating. He felt like he could finally breathe. When he returned to his desk, his coworker leaned over. "So, she'll summon you early?" He nodded casually. "Yeah, what happened?" "Just work stuff," he replied, echoing his words from earlier. But this time, he wasn't hiding. Fear just keeping things simple. As the morning went on, he tried to focus on his tasks, but his mind drifted back to the meeting. Her tone, her questions, the unexpected understanding, all of it replayed in his head. It didn't erase his embarrassment, but it made it easier to cope. For the first time in a long while, it felt like someone at work actually noticed the weight he carried. And even though the message had gone to the wrong person, maybe it had opened a door he didn't know he needed, but something still bothered him. Why did she ask if he was okay in such a personal way? Why did she say the message made her think? He had never seen her like that. He pushed the thoughts aside for now and tried to concentrate on work. But deep down, he knew that one accidental message had changed something between them, something subtle but real, and whatever it was. He had a feeling it wasn't over yet. Days passed after the accidental message, and things at work slowly returned to their usual rhythm, more so, he thought. At first, he expected tension, awkward glances, or even subtle teasing from coworkers. But surprisingly, none of that happened. People were polite, professional, and seemed to go about their work as normal. The incident, which had felt like a disaster in his mind, quietly became just another small event in the office. Even so, he noticed subtle changes. His boss, who usually kept a strict distance, began asking about small things in his life. One morning, she casually asked how his son was doing, mentioning something he had said in passing days ago. He was caught off guard by the genuine interest and didn't know how to respond at first. Her voice wasn't cold or indifferent. It carried a hint of concern, as if she truly wanted to know. He told her his son was doing well, and she nodded with a small smile. She didn't pry, and yet the gesture itself felt comforting. For a moment, he realized that a barrier had broken, a barrier he hadn't even realized existed. The same boss who seemed unapproachable and focused solely on work was now showing subtle empathy. In meetings, he noticed she was more patient, explaining tasks with clarity and giving more time for questions. It wasn't dramatic, but small gestures matter. It made him feel less pressured, and in a strange way, more confident. The office atmosphere felt slightly lighter. It was almost as if the accidental message had reminded her that employees were human, with lives and challenges beyond the office walls. He tried to carry on his work as usual, but the thoughts of that moment lingered. Every time he caught a glimpse of her in the hallway, he remembered the conversation and felt a mix of relief and surprise. He had expected a scolding, or at least a sharp remark, but she had instead chosen understanding. That realization made him reflect on his own life, on how much stress he carried silently, and how little he allowed himself to ask for help. One afternoon, during a routine check-in, she called him into her office again. He hesitated outside the door for a moment, unsure what to expect, then walked in. She looked at him and smiled slightly, gesturing for him to sit. "I wanted to follow up," she said calmly. "You've been managing a lot lately, and I wanted to check if there's anything you need to make things easier." He blinked. It was unexpected. Most bosses never ask directly like this. They assume efficiency over well-being, but she was asking sincerely. "I think I'm managing," he said carefully. "I mean, it's challenging, but I'm doing my best." "I know," she said. "I can see it. And I want to make sure your hard work doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated." He felt a lump in his throat. Appreciation in a work environment was rare, especially from someone like her. He tried to hide it, but she noticed. "You don't have to struggle alone," she added. "If you need flexibility or support, I can help. You just need to ask." He nodded slowly, absorbing her words. It wasn't just an offer. It was a lifeline. For someone who constantly balanced work and personal responsibilities, it was more than he had expected. Over the next few days, he noticed the small ways her behavior changed. She checked in casually about his workload, offered suggestions without pressure, and even praised efforts that previously would have gone unnoticed. He realized that the message, accidental as it was, had humanized him in her eyes. It wasn't just a message of gratitude. It had shown her a glimpse of his life outside the office, and it reminded her to approach work with more understanding. At the same time, he noticed office gossip starting to stir. Some coworkers had overheard snippets of conversation or noticed the small shifts in her behavior. Whispers began, subtle but present, hinting that something unusual was happening between him and his boss. He tried to ignore it, focusing on his tasks. But it was difficult not to hear occasional murmurs. Despite the rumors, he continued his routine, grateful for the unexpected support. One afternoon, during a project meeting, his boss acknowledged his efforts in front of the team. She praised his dedication and problem-solving skills, and he noticed the genuine tone in her voice. The recognition felt different now, more personal and meaningful. Later that evening, he went home feeling tired but satisfied. His son ran up to him, full of energy, and he smiled, letting go of the stress from the office. The small victories at work, combined with the rare acknowledgement from his boss, made the day feel lighter. That night, he sat on the couch, reflecting on how a single mistake, a simple message sent to the wrong person, had shifted dynamics in unexpected ways. He thought about how easily life can change with tiny, unintended actions, and how sometimes embarrassment or fear can lead to growth and understanding. He felt a mix of relief and gratitude. Relief that the meeting had gone well, and gratitude for the unexpected kindness he received. He realized that he had learned something important. Vulnerability, even accidental, could open doors. And sometimes, people respond with understanding rather than judgment, even when you least expect it. The message which he had feared would be his downfall had instead reminded everyone involved of something essential. Human connection matters more than perfect professionalism. As he prepared his son for bed that night, he felt a sense of hope he hadn't felt in a long time. The chaos of balancing work and parenting hadn't gone away. But he now knew that support was possible, even from unexpected places. And for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to feel a little optimistic about the days ahead. Even with the office gossip simmering quietly in the background, he felt a growing sense of confidence. He had faced the fear of embarrassment, navigated a difficult conversation, and come out with a stronger, more respectful relationship with his boss. And he knew that this was only the beginning of a subtle but meaningful shift that could make his life a little easier, a little more supported, and a lot more human. In the quiet of the night, he whispered to himself, maybe mistakes aren't always bad. Sometimes they remind us what really matters. The office continued to feel a bit different in the days that followed. While the boss remained professional and supportive, there was an undercurrent among the employees. Whispers and subtle glances hinted that some of his coworkers had noticed the unusual attention or the small changes in the boss's demeanor toward him. At first, he tried to ignore it, focusing on his projects. But the rumors began to circulate quietly, shaping the way people looked at him. He walked into the office one morning and noticed two coworkers whispering at the corner of his floor. Their heads turned quickly as he passed, and he caught fragments of words that made him pause. ... closer than before. And ... must have happened after that message. His stomach sank. It was not malicious, just curious chatter, but it made him feel exposed. He wasn't looking for attention, and he certainly didn't want office gossip to reach his boss in a negative way. He kept working, burying himself in spreadsheets and reports, trying to ignore the noise. But when he caught a few more whispers throughout the day, it became harder to stay focused. The accidental message, which had unexpectedly strengthened his relationship with his boss, had also drawn unwanted attention from his peers. He knew he needed to navigate this carefully. He didn't want his professional reputation to be overshadowed by misunderstandings. During lunch, he sat alone, scrolling on his phone. His mind kept replaying the moments he had spent talking with his boss, wondering if the gossip had reached her ears. He didn't want to be seen as unprofessional, nor did he want the situation to embarrass her. The thought made him anxious, but he knew he had to face it. Later that afternoon, he received a message from his boss asking to see him in her office. His heart sank again. He wasn't sure if this was about work, the message, or the rumors circulating among his coworkers. He walked toward her office with careful steps, rehearsing what he might say. But when he knocked and entered, he found her sitting calmly at her desk. "Sit down," she said, her voice gentle. He did, unsure of what to expect. "I've noticed some rumors going around," she began. "Some coworkers have been speculating about you and me." He felt a flush of embarrassment. "I didn't expect that, I hope it hasn't caused any problems." She shook her head. "No, but I wanted to address it directly. I don't want misunderstandings to spread or affect your work." He nodded. "I understand. I'm trying to focus on my tasks and not get involved in gossip." "That's good," she said. "I appreciate that. But I also want you to know that my attention to you has nothing to do with anything inappropriate. I've simply noticed your dedication, the way you manage your responsibilities, and your effort to keep everything running smoothly. That's all." He breathed a small sigh of relief. Her words cleared the air in a way that was honest, professional, and reassuring. He realized that the rumors, while uncomfortable, didn't reflect reality. The boss had chosen to handle the situation with integrity, and that gave him confidence. "Thank you for clarifying," he said sincerely. "I was worried this might affect my work or make things awkward." She smiled slightly. "It's better to address it than let it grow. I trust you to continue your work with focus. Don't let this distract you." Her words brought a sense of calm. He felt a renewed determination to keep performing well and to maintain a professional distance, while still appreciating the support she had offered since the accidental message. Back at his desk, he organized his tasks, focusing on the work at hand. He noticed that even though the gossip persisted quietly, it had less power over him now. He had clarity about the relationship with his boss, and that made him more confident in navigating the office environment. Outside of work, life continued to be challenging. One evening, his babysitter called with unexpected news. She had to leave for a family emergency and wouldn't be able to continue helping him for the foreseeable future. The timing couldn't have been worse. As his schedule remained packed with deadlines and responsibilities, he felt a wave of panic. How would he manage work and parenting without the help he had come to rely on? The stress of finding a new caregiver, arranging his son's schedule, and keeping up with work tasks was overwhelming. He knew he couldn't do it alone without support. The thought made him anxious. He decided to talk to his boss about the situation. Despite the lingering rumors in the office, he trusted that she would listen. He explained the situation honestly, detailing the challenge of balancing work and childcare. She listened carefully, nodding as he spoke. "I understand," she said after he finished. "It sounds like you've been managing a lot on your own. Have you considered flexible options? Remote work, adjusted hours, or even help finding someone reliable?" Her suggestion surprised him. He hadn't expected such understanding and practical solutions from a boss who had always been strict and results-oriented. I hadn't thought about that," he admitted. "We can work something out," she said. "You shouldn't have to choose between your responsibilities at home and at work." He felt a mixture of relief and gratitude. For someone who was always focused on deadlines and efficiency, her willingness to help was remarkable. It reminded him again that the accidental message, while initially a source of fear, had opened a door to genuine understanding. Over the next few weeks, with her support, he managed to find a temporary caregiver for his son and adjusted his work schedule to accommodate the new arrangement. The office gossip persisted quietly, but didn't interfere with his productivity or his relationship with his boss. In fact, their bond grew subtly stronger. She continued to offer guidance, check in on his well-being, and provide constructive feedback. He realized that what had started as an embarrassing mistake had transformed into something valuable. The accidental message had forced communication, opened doors for support, and created a more humane work environment for him. He had learned that mistakes don't always lead to negative outcomes. Sometimes they reveal the importance of kindness, understanding, and empathy in unexpected ways. As he tucked his son into bed one night, he reflected on the past weeks. The challenges were still there, and balancing work and parenting remained difficult. But he felt more confident and supported. He whispered softly, "Sometimes, mistakes aren't the end. They're the start of something better. And in the quiet of the night, he felt a renewed sense of hope. Ready to face the coming days with determination and a little more trust in the unexpected ways life could turn out, weeks passed, and life slowly began to settle into a new rhythm. With the support of his boss and the temporary caregiver he had found, he was able to balance work and parenting more smoothly. He no longer felt as if he was constantly running on empty, and the little victories at work and home started to accumulate. Still, he knew the journey wasn't over. Challenges would always come, but now he felt better equipped to face them. At the office, the atmosphere had shifted subtly, but positively. The rumors among coworkers had quieted, replaced by a sense of respect for his hard work and dedication. People still whispered occasionally, but the tone was more of admiration than gossip. His colleagues began noticing the effort he put into managing both work and home life. And he received quiet acknowledgement in small ways: a nod from a coworker, a thank you for helping on a project, a shared laugh during a meeting. His boss continued to be a steady presence, balancing professionalism with understanding. She checked in occasionally, offering guidance or flexibility without micromanaging. Her support reminded him that even in a demanding workplace, empathy and understanding could coexist with high expectations. He began to realize that the accidental message had inadvertently strengthened his professional relationship, creating trust and openness that hadn't existed before. One afternoon, as he was leaving the office, his boss called him over. "I've been meaning to say this," she began, her tone serious but kind. "Your dedication hasn't gone unnoticed. You've handled a lot recently, and your work continues to be excellent. I want you to know that it makes a difference." He felt a warmth spread through him, a mix of pride and gratitude. It was more than just a compliment. It was acknowledgement of the effort and challenges he'd faced outside of work that often went unseen. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "That means a lot." "Don't forget," she added with a small smile, "it's okay to ask for help when you need it. You don't have to carry everything alone." Her words stayed with him as he walked to his car. The support and understanding he received at work gave him confidence, but he knew the real test would be at home, balancing his responsibilities without letting the pressures overwhelm him. That evening, after picking up his son from the caregiver, he sat with him at the kitchen table, helping with homework and talking about the day. His son looked up at him with a smile, sharing stories and little victories. In those moments, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Despite the challenges, he was creating stability and happiness for his child. That mattered more than anything else. As the week progressed, he noticed a sense of calm settling in. The chaos that had dominated his life felt manageable now. Work was demanding but no longer overwhelming. And parenting, while still exhausting, had moments of joy and connection that made the effort worthwhile. The accidental message that had once caused panic now seemed like a turning point, a reminder that life was unpredictable and that sometimes mistakes led to positive change. He began to reflect on the lessons he had learned. First, vulnerability, even unintended, could open doors. The accidental message had revealed a part of his life and feelings that might otherwise have remained hidden, and it had prompted understanding and support rather than judgment. Second, people often respond with more empathy than expected. His boss's reaction had been a surprise, but it was a welcome one, showing that kindness and professionalism could coexist. Third, he realized the importance of communication. The conversation that followed the message had cleared the air, addressed misunderstandings, and strengthened trust. Without that dialogue, rumors might have taken root and tension could have grown. Clear communication, even in uncomfortable situations, was essential. Finally, he understood the power of perspective. What seemed like a disaster at first, the wrong recipient for a heartfelt message, turned out to be an opportunity for connection, growth, and understanding. Life had a way of surprising him, and he had learned to adapt, to find lessons in mistakes, and to embrace the unexpected outcomes. One Friday evening, as he tucked his son into bed, he reflected on the past weeks. The challenges were still present, and responsibilities remained heavy, but he felt more confident, supported, and resilient. He whispered softly, We're doing okay. We'll keep moving forward." He sat for a moment in the quiet, listening to the soft breathing of his child, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't known in months. The accidental message, which had caused so much anxiety and embarrassment initially, had sparked change that went beyond the office. It had reminded him, and perhaps even his boss, of the human side of life that often gets lost in deadlines, schedules, and expectations. At work, his reputation had strengthened. He was respected not just for his efficiency and dedication, but for his perseverance and character. His relationship with his boss remained professional, but was now built on trust, mutual understanding, and respect. They had navigated an awkward situation with honesty and empathy, and in doing so, had set an example of how human connection can thrive even in a structured, demanding environment. The weeks that followed continued with ups and downs, but the foundation had shifted. He knew that no matter what challenges arose, he had the support, tools, and perspective to handle them. Life would always be unpredictable, but he had learned that mistakes, honesty, and vulnerability could create opportunities for growth, understanding, and unexpected kindness. As he finally settled on the couch one evening, exhausted but content, he reflected on the journey. The accidental message had been frightening, embarrassing, and stressful, yet it became the catalyst for something meaningful. It had reminded him that even in professional settings, human emotions, empathy, and understanding matter. It had strengthened his bond with his boss and reshaped his approach to both work and life. Looking ahead, he felt a quiet confidence. He knew challenges would continue, but he also knew that he wasn't alone, and that the kindness and understanding of others could make even difficult moments manageable. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and allowed himself to feel grateful for the support, the lessons, and the unexpected ways life sometimes works out. The story of that accidental message would stay with him, not as a source of embarrassment, but as a reminder. Mistakes can lead to growth, vulnerability can build trust, and even the most unexpected moments can bring positive change. And as he drifted off to sleep, he felt a deep sense of hope, ready to face the days ahead with resilience, gratitude, and a renewed appreciation for the human connections that make life meaningful. Life continued to move forward, and he began to notice changes not only in his professional life but also in himself. The accidental message, which had once seemed like the worst mistake imaginable, had set in motion a chain of events that reshaped his perspective. He felt stronger, more confident, and more capable of handling the challenges that came with being both a dedicated employee and a single parent. Every morning, he woke up with a sense of purpose. He prepared his son for school, packed lunches, and made sure the house was in order. The mornings were still hectic, but now he approached them with calm determination. He knew he could manage the chaos and still succeed at work, thanks in part to the support he received and the lessons he had learned. At the office, the atmosphere continued to improve. His colleagues had grown accustomed to the changes, and while occasional whispers remained, they were now filled with admiration rather than curiosity or judgment. People respected his dedication, not only because of his work performance, but also because they saw how he handled the challenges of life outside the office with resilience and integrity. His boss continued to be a steady presence. She offered guidance when needed, checked in on his well-being, and acknowledged his efforts regularly. Their relationship had grown into one of mutual respect, built on honesty and trust. The message that had caused initial panic now felt like a turning point, a catalyst for a more humane and understanding workplace. One afternoon, while reviewing a complex project, he realized how much he had grown. He was more organized, more patient, and more capable of managing stress than he had been months earlier. He recognized that the challenges he had faced balancing work, parenting, and unexpected situations had shaped him into a stronger and more empathetic person. Evening routines at home became moments of joy and connection. He would sit with his son, listen to stories about the day, and offer guidance and support. The small victories, like helping with homework or hearing his son laugh, reminded him of the importance of presence and attention. These moments grounded him, offering perspective and motivation for the next day. One day, while leaving work, his boss called him over. "I wanted to let you know something," she said. "Your dedication hasn't gone unnoticed, and your ability to balance responsibilities is admirable. I hope you know that." He felt a warmth in his chest. "Thank you. That means a lot." She smiled softly. "Remember, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to carry everything alone." He nodded, appreciating the reminder. Her words reinforced the lessons he had learned. Vulnerability can open doors. Communication is powerful, and seeking support is not a weakness. As weeks turned into months, he noticed the subtle ways life had shifted. The accidental message that once filled him with dread had led to stronger bonds, improved communication, and a more supportive environment both at work and at home. It reminded him that mistakes, while uncomfortable, can lead to growth and positive change at home. He continued to nurture his relationship with his son. They shared meals, stories, and laughter. Parenting, while still demanding, felt more manageable and rewarding. He understood the importance of being present, not just physically but emotionally, and he made a conscious effort to be attentive and engaged. At work, he found himself mentoring newer employees, sharing lessons learned from his own experiences. He encouraged them to communicate openly, manage stress effectively, and seek support when needed. His journey had transformed him into a source of guidance and inspiration for others, proving that even challenging experiences could be turned into opportunities for growth. One evening, after putting his son to bed, he sat quietly in the living room, reflecting on the past months. The stress and panic of the accidental message had faded, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and understanding. He realized that life was unpredictable and that mistakes were not the end, but rather opportunities to learn, connect, and grow. He whispered softly to himself, "We've come a long way. Things aren't perfect, but we're doing our best, and that's enough." The quiet of the night allowed him to think about the future. He knew there would be more challenges, both at work and at home, but he felt prepared. The lessons he had learned about patience, empathy, communication, and resilience would guide him through whatever came next. He thought about his boss. The colleague he had once feared would judge him harshly. The experience had taught him that people often respond with understanding and kindness when given the chance. Her support had not only helped him professionally, but it also reinforced his belief in the importance of empathy and human connection. He thought about his son, the reason he worked tirelessly every day. Being present for him, supporting him, and nurturing his growth had become his guiding purpose. The balance between work and parenting, while never easy, now felt achievable. He also thought about himself, about the growth he had achieved through challenges and mistakes. He realized that the accidental message, which had once caused fear and embarrassment, had ultimately led to personal and professional development. It had reminded him of the importance of honesty, the power of vulnerability, and the unexpected ways life can offer support and guidance. As he sat quietly, he felt a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the support he received, for the lessons learned, and for the opportunity to grow. He knew that life would continue to present challenges, but he also knew that he had the strength, perspective, and support to navigate them. He leaned back, allowing himself a moment of peace. The journey was ongoing, but he felt ready for whatever came next. The accidental message, once a source of fear, had become a symbol of growth, understanding, and the unpredictable beauty of life. And as he closed his eyes, he felt a deep sense of hope, resilience, and gratitude. Ready to face each new day with confidence and an open heart. Weeks had passed since the accidental message incident, and life had settled into a rhythm that felt both challenging and manageable. The support he had received at work and at home had created a sense of stability he hadn't experienced in months. Still, he knew life would continue to test him in unexpected ways, and he prepared himself mentally to face whatever came next. At work, atmosphere had become more collaborative. His colleagues respected him not only for his work ethic, but also for the way he had handled difficult situations with grace. Occasional whispers and curiosity about the message incident had faded into the background. he found himself more confident in navigating office dynamics. Knowing that trust and integrity carried more weight than gossip, his boss continued to check in with him, offering advice, guidance, and sometimes simply a listening ear. Their professional relationship had evolved into one that balanced authority and understanding. She appreciated his dedication and resilience, and he respected her leadership and the human approach she now applied more openly within the team. One morning, as he walked into the office, he noticed a new energy in the environment. The team had started a challenging project with tight deadlines, and everyone was on edge. But unlike before, he felt ready. He knew he could contribute without losing himself in stress or frustration. He organized his tasks carefully, delegating responsibilities when appropriate and asking for help when needed. During a project meeting, his boss addressed the team. "I know this project is demanding, but I have confidence in everyone's abilities," she said. Her words carried reassurance and clarity. She looked at him specifically, offering a nod that conveyed both trust and acknowledgement. He felt a surge of motivation. He had come a long way from the panic of sending that accidental message, and now he was trusted to handle complex responsibilities with competence. After the meeting, he returned to his desk, thinking about the lessons he had learned over the past weeks. The accidental message had forced a conversation that revealed vulnerability, human needs, and understanding. It had reminded him that people are often more compassionate than expected, and that communication honest. Clear communication was a powerful tool in both personal and professional life. Later that day, he received a message from his babysitter, who had been helping temporarily while a long-term solution was being arranged. She explained that she had found a new opportunity and would need to leave soon. This news added another layer of challenge to his already busy life. He would need to find a replacement quickly to maintain stability for his son. Feeling the pressure, he decided to speak with his boss. He explained the situation honestly, detailing the difficulty of balancing work, childcare, and the upcoming deadlines. Her response was supportive, practical, and empathetic. She suggested options for flexible hours and offered help in finding a reliable caregiver. Her guidance reminded him that leadership could be compassionate. Without compromising professional standards, he began interviewing potential caregivers and found someone who could provide the consistency and support his son needed. With this arrangement in place, he felt a renewed sense of control. He understood that planning, honesty, and seeking help, when necessary, were essential tools for managing the complexities of life. Evenings at home became more structured. He spent time with his son, helping with schoolwork, preparing meals, and sharing stories about the day. These moments were grounding, offering joy and connection amidst the daily responsibilities. Parenting remained challenging, but he had developed strategies to manage stress and maintain balance at work. His leadership and reliability were noticed by the team. He began mentoring newer employees, sharing the insights he had gained from balancing multiple responsibilities. He emphasized communication, asking for support, and maintaining perspective. His experience became a source of guidance and inspiration for others, demonstrating that even challenging situations could be managed effectively. One afternoon, his boss called him into her office. "I wanted to acknowledge your progress," she said. "You've handled multiple challenges with professionalism and resilience. It's impressive." He felt a deep sense of pride and gratitude. "Thank you. I've learned a lot over the past months." Her smile was warm but professional, and I hope you continue to apply those lessons. Remember, support is always available if you need it. These words reinforced his belief in the importance of collaboration, empathy, and honesty. They reminded him that success was not solely about individual effort, but also about seeking guidance and support when necessary. As the weeks progressed, he noticed subtle improvements in his personal life. His son was thriving with the new caregiver. Their bond had strengthened through consistent attention and shared experiences. Work remained demanding, but he approached each challenge with a clear mind and a sense of purpose. The accidental message, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a catalyst for growth and understanding in both his personal and professional life. He began reflecting more intentionally on his journey. He recognized that mistakes, even those that initially caused panic, could lead to valuable lessons and stronger connections. Vulnerability, when expressed honestly, often elicited empathy and support. Communication and transparency were crucial in resolving misunderstandings and fostering trust. And seeking help, far from being a weakness, was a sign of wisdom and self-awareness. One evening, after putting his son to bed, he sat quietly in the living room, reflecting on the past months. He thought about the challenges, the growth, and the lessons learned. The accidental message, once a source of fear and embarrassment, had become a turning point. It had opened doors to understanding, created stronger relationships, and offered valuable life lessons. He whispered softly to himself, "We've come a long way. There will be more challenges, but we're ready." He felt a sense of calm and hope. The journey was ongoing, but he had developed the resilience perspective and support network to navigate future difficulties. Life would continue to test him, but he knew that honesty, communication, and empathy would guide him. The story of the accidental message had transformed from an embarrassing mistake to a profound learning experience. It reminded him that mistakes could lead to growth, that vulnerability could build trust, and that support and understanding often appear when least expected. His professional relationships had strengthened, his personal life had become more stable, and he had grown into a more confident, capable, and empathetic individual. As he closed his eyes that night, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey, the lessons learned, and the connections that had shaped his growth. He knew that challenges would continue, but he felt prepared, resilient, and hopeful. The accidental message, once a moment of fear, had become a symbol of human connection, growth, and the unpredictable ways life could bring positive change. He drifted into sleep with a sense of accomplishment and anticipation, ready to face each new day with clarity, empathy, and determination. Knowing that both mistakes and opportunities were part of the journey, and both could lead to meaningful and lasting change.